Good morning. My name's John Thomas Hill. This is the aforementioned John Thomas Hill Show. And there is breaking news today out of Manhattan. The Manhattan DA's office obtains Trump's tax returns and related records. This is from WCBS 880 News Radio. I'll read it verbatim. New York prosecutors are now in possession of former President Donald Trump's tax returns and related records. WCBS 880 confirms that the Manhattan District Attorney's Office obtained the documents on Monday after the Supreme Court declined to step in to halt the turnover. CNN cites sources familiar with the matter as saying the records includes millions of pages of documents dating back to 2011. Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance Jr. has been fighting to get access to the records since 2019 as part of an investigation of the former president and his businesses. He subpoenaed the records from the Mazars accounting firm. After the court ruling on Monday, Vance declared the work continues. Trump claimed the investigation is politically motivated and slammed the Supreme Court, saying it never should have let this fishing expedition happen, but they did. He vowed to fight on and said we will win. Trump's tax records are not supposed to become public as part of the prosecutor's criminal investigation, the Associated Press reported. Okay. Well, we've been talking about this for a long time. Donald Trump has been trying his best to hide his past, what he's been up to. He's been playing this game to where he wants to avoid having what he's been doing become public. Well, the game is now over. And the game has pretty much ended for Mr. Trump. And it starts here. They're going to sift through the millions of files, millions of pages of files of his tax records and his business records and so forth. And you have to ask yourself, if he had nothing to hide, why wouldn't he just make it public? There are plenty of politicians. I almost said prostitutes. They're the same thing. Well, I should say prostitutes are a little bit more honorable than politicians these days, but that's beside the point. The fact is that as much as we want to avoid this reality that Donald Trump is as bad as he has been said to be, the fact of the matter is he's probably worse. And it starts with these records right here. And anytime someone talks about a fishing expedition or all this, it's sort of like in the play Macbeth, the Shakespeare play Macbeth. Well, Lady Macbeth says, or they say to Lady Macbeth, "Thou protest too much." Well, Donald Trump has been protesting way too much. And let's face facts. Donald Trump is guilty of sin. You know it. I know it. He knows it. And the people closest to him know it. They're scared to death. They're scared to death because it will unravel everything they've been doing. They're scared because if it is found out what they have been up to, it could lead to lengthy prison sentences for not just the former president, but members of his family and members of his entourage. It is definitely scary if you are President Trump or former President Trump, because the truth is starting to come out. And no matter how much you try to avoid it, no matter how much you try to pretend it isn't real. It's there. And no matter what you do, it's going to make itself known. And I know there are going to be people who say, "Well, you're overblowing it, John. You're making mountains out of molehills. Why has he fought so hard to hide all of this?" That is the thing that his defenders cannot answer. Why have they fought so hard when, if he has nothing to hide, if he's done nothing wrong, why not expose it? He was a publicly elected official. Should we not know what the president's financial liabilities are, who he's responsible to? You know, to me, it says a lot about how bad things are when we can't trust our own president to tell us the truth, what he has truly been up to. And that's something that, honestly, it's one of those things that I hate. It bugs me because we should be beyond this. The president and politicians should be above reproach. Yeah, that's maybe Pollyannish. But if you are seeking public office in this country, you should be above reproach. We all know that's not the case. Both Republicans and Democrats are guilty as sin of that. But here's the thing. With Donald Trump, it's almost worse. Because, actually far worse. Because he pretended to be something that he was not. He condemned the very people that actually were better than he was at corruption. They weren't as blatant as it is he was. And now that he's out of office, the protections are gone. And the ramifications for him are going to be grave. First off, he has talked constantly about, ever since he left office, about forming his own political party. That sounds like a very good thing if you're a Democrat, for the simple reason it would split the Republican vote. It would take a significant chunk of the Republican vote away, and the Democrats would have a field day. Would the Republican Party simply retreat and, in order to stay in power, would give in to Donald Trump's threat of forming another political party? If they did, then the centrists go to Democrats. The moderate Republicans would either go to the Democrats, at least for a time until they reclaim the Republican Party, or they would form their own party. Say a Conservative Party of America, and fight under that banner. So regardless of what happens, there is going to be a schism in the Republican Party unless they rid themselves of Donald Trump. And I'm going to be honest with you. If you're a Republican establishment person like McConnell, like McCarthy in the House, someone who understands where this is going, you would want Donald Trump to keel over dead of a heart attack right now. Let's be honest. That's what they're hoping for. Is he gets so worked up over this stuff that he succumbs to all of this and kills himself. That's what they're hoping for. Secretly, they won't ever express that publicly, But it would be mighty convenient for Donald Trump, for the people who in the Republican Party who don't like Donald Trump privately. Now, what about the second impeachment? First of all, we all knew that the impeachment process was going to be, it wasn't going to work to convict him. We all knew that. It was a test by the Democrats to see whether Republicans lie. Do they lie with Trump, or do they lie with the Constitution and the country? Well, we now know where that stands. And if you've looked at the stories of Republicans washing their hands of the party, there have been major deregistrations from the Republican Party. And that could be one of two things. One, it could be Trumpist leaving the Republican Party because they don't bow down to Donald Trump hard enough. Or it's the other way, where these people were disgusted by the Republicans who try and stick by a man that should be reviled for what happened on January 6th. So how does this play out? Well, first of all, if you think that the whole Trump thing on January 6th is over, wrong. The criminal investigations are just beginning. Once the Attorney General gets in office, almost assuredly, one of the first things that's going to happen is there's going to be an investigation into the invasion of the Capitol building on January 6th. And we've already seen there are some Trump supporters who invaded the Capitol who are wanting to turn on Trump because they feel like he betrayed them. You see, this is the problem with someone like Trump. He demands absolute loyalty. But when push comes to shove, the people that he demands absolute loyalty from, he himself is not loyal to them. And that is the thing that you folks who support him don't understand. You are expendable. You are expendable. You're cannon fodder. To Trump, to his family, and to the people that are his benefactors. And in my view, Donald Trump is going to have the next year or so to go through legal hell. So will his family. And a lot of this is going to conclude around the time of the 2022 election. Almost assuredly, his hardcore supporters will be demanding that the Republican Party do something to stop this. And you will have Republicans who are going to try and take over the Senate or the House to try and put an end to this. Well, it's going to be awfully hard to do that because you have a Democrat in the White House. And it's awfully hard to do that because what if there is a split in the Republican Party? Do you support someone who very well could be every bit as bad, if not worse, as the Democrats and Trump's opponents have claimed him to be? That's something to consider greatly. The more I think about it, the more I think that the next 2 years plays out like this. Later this year, there is going to be indictments of Trump, his family members, and those involved in the Trump Organization for what is in those tax records. Whether there's a conviction or not, who's to say? Then, late this year, we start hearing about the investigation into what Trump was doing during his administration. He will almost certainly try to seal those records, and the Attorney General will fight to unlock those records. And the question before the Supreme Court, and you know what will become before the Supreme Court, is, should a president be able to seal his files from public view if there are known criminal acts to have taken place during his administration? And that will be the question. Will the Supreme Court allow Donald Trump to keep his records sealed, despite the fact that there may very well be evidence of, and more likely there is evidence of, criminal acts? That is the question that will be answered. And how the Supreme Court goes remains to be seen. There's an election late next year for the Senate and the House. It's way too early to predict it, but I can guarantee you the Democrats are wanting to use it as a way to solidify their power so that they can purge the country of the poison of Donald Trump. Because they know that, yes, there's a lot of dirty Democrats. There's a lot of dirty Republicans who have nothing to do with Donald Trump. We all know this. But it's different with Donald Trump because of one thing: the connection with Russia. And that is what he's afraid to be found out. He may not have a direct connection himself. You ever heard of plausible deniability? But there may be people in his organization that he himself hired that have connections. And that will be the true test of our judicial system. Will the Supreme Court allow prosecutors to look into those files that the president sealed before he left office? That every president seals and has on a seal for like 20 years or 50 years or whatever. If there are criminal acts, there's evidence of criminal acts that have taken place during the Trump administration, and there is evidence that Donald Trump is hiding evidence in those files, what does the Supreme Court do? Do you side with the judicial system, or do you side with tradition? It's a big call. Do we place presidents above the law? That's a big question. And there'll be plenty of deflections from Trump's camp. They'll be throwing around Hillary and whatever Barack Obama allegedly did, which we still don't know what that is because they've not actually said what he did. They don't have any actual factual evidence. They keep throwing around Hunter Biden. And I don't see Joe Biden hiding anything. You know, he's like, go ahead. See what you can find. There's probably nothing there. And I'm like this: if there is, well, Hunter, you better be ready to go to jail. That's the judicial system. If there's something there, by all means, press charges. Bring it to a judge. Bring it to a jury. I'm all for that. It's like with Hillary Clinton. If you had evidence of wrongdoing, bring it before the court. Bring it before the court. That's what I want to see. It is time that we settle this before the next presidential election. Because this beast, this monster known as Trumpism needs to be stabbed in the heart by the judicial system. And we get away from this country ever coming close to being a fascist country again, because that's what we were going down with Donald Trump in power. I live in a southern county. Trump territory. Still plenty of people with Trump flags. As the other day, I rode by someplace, a residence that had a sign, "Trump is still my president." I wanted to go out saying, well, what's he doing for you? Besides sitting in Mar-a-Lago crying that he's no longer president because he knows what's going to happen. The truth is, Donald Trump knows he's screwed. Donald Trump knows that, barring a miracle, he is screwed. The only way is if he has a loyal ally, either himself, his sons, one of his sons, his daughter, or somebody loyal to him, wins the presidency in 2024, and one of their first acts is to give him a pardon, which would pretty much be political suicide. Donald Trump doesn't care about that. And there's no guarantee Donald Trump will even still be alive. He is in his late 70s, after all. The stress and strain of all of this is surely taking a toll on his health. And when the walls start coming in towards him, that's just the criminal stuff, the civil stuff. This man is deeply in debt. How is he going to pay for all that debt? His name's tarnished. His businesses are going under. There was a report the other day that the Trump Washington Hotel and the Trump International Hotel in Washington barely has any business. The only thing he really has left are his blind-faced supporters that in reality he reviles. They are cannon fodder to him. But he knows they're suckers. He knows deep down that they will sacrifice themselves for him should the time come. And that's a scary thought. Donald Trump would be more than willing to sacrifice his supporters to protect his own skin. That's not a leader, ladies and gentlemen. I said long ago that there would be a reckoning. I said there would be a time when the Trump supporters would have to face the reality that the very man they revere is someone they should be reviling. Regardless of how you feel about his political views and all of this, you have to look at the man himself and ask, is this man worthy of being president? Is a man who is alleged to have done a lot of financial improprieties, I should say, who has allegedly compromised himself at the hands of foreign countries that he is indebted to, of foreign banks he's indebted to. The next couple of years will be rough. There will be some good news. The pandemic will surely subside. The economy will slowly but surely recover. And things will get slowly better. The problem is, we don't know how much better. And there is always the reality of they could very well get worse before they get better. It all depends on what Donald J. Trump wants to do. Does he want to do the right thing, to admit what he's done, to allow prosecutors to look at his records, admit what he's done wrong? Or, most likely, will he continue to delay and deny justice? Well, we have to find out all he's done years after he's dead and his children are as old as he is now. That's the scary part, ladies and gentlemen. We may not know the true extent of what Trump has done to this country until after the halfway point of this century, if not further beyond than that. I may be dead and gone by the time we find out. And that's probably what he's hoping for. This is a man who doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about anyone but himself. And trust me, if it meant throwing his own family under the bus, he would do it. And we very well could see that in the next couple of years. He wants to protect himself. His biggest fear is going to jail. His biggest fear is being held to account for what he's done. His biggest fear is that his legacy is forever tarnished by what he's done. His biggest fear is the truth. All that he has left is the blind allegiance of certain politicians and certain people who know nothing more than the far-right, angry vitriol that Donald Trump spews. They lavish in conspiracy theories. They are racist. They are xenophobes. They are homophobes. They are transphobes. All that sustains them is their hate. All that sustains them is their belief that someone is out to get them. Mainly because someone probably should be out to get them. Because the time has come to stand up to racists, to homophobes, to transphobes, to xenophobes, to bigots in general. To finally come to terms with the fact that, yes, this country's history isn't pleasant. There are some things we really need to talk about. It should not be whitewashed like Trump wants to do. Donald Trump must be subject to criminal prosecution for what he's done. The record should be unsealed, examined thoroughly for prosecutors to determine what he should be charged with. Because we know, deep down inside, even his supporters know that he's dirty. They can't admit to themselves, because admitting to themselves that he's wrong means that they are admitting to themselves that they were wrong to support him. The fall will be hard. And I'm not just talking about Donald Trump's fall. So the Trump supporters have something they must think about. Do you continue to support a man who may very well be even more guilty than what his opponents allege him to be? Or do you face the reality that you were the fool? That you have been made the fool? You supported someone that would sell you out, sell your country out for his own skin. The man should never have been president. And once you come to that reality, maybe, just maybe, you'll understand why those of us who hated him, who despised him, we weren't hating the man. We were hating what he stood for, what he was against in this country. And you have to ask yourself this. Do you want to be associated with someone like that? The most criminal president in the United States history? The one who makes Richard Nixon look good? Do you want to split your political party and hand the Democrats power for decades to come, perhaps? Or do you want to face the reality that the people behind Trump and Trump himself were not doing this to benefit you? They were doing it to benefit themselves at your expense. You have to wake up now. You have to wake up to the fact that the man you supported is as evil and as vile as his opponents claim him to be, and maybe even more so. You have to wake up from your delusions. You have to wake up for the good of the country, for the good of the Constitution, for the good of yourselves. You have to wake up. Good day, good luck, and may the good news be yours.